Very well. So, Karak, you confirm that we have the requisite quorum to transact the business for this session, which is on Tuesday, the 5th day of July, 2022 at 9:30 a.m., although we have come in at about 10 a.m.
Mr. Speaker, sir, quorum is present and the members under the virtual platform are Honorable Andrew Kariuki Kamau, Honorable Gabriel Gadura Wambui, Honorable Jeffrey Kariuki Ngaruya, Honorable Salume Gadoni Kamau, Honorable Lucy Wangari Medhu, Honorable Mary Njeri Wanjau, Honorable Jane Nyambura Waweru, Honorable Joseph Kariuki Waithera, Honorable Justus Gaita Wagura, Honorable Kariuki Mushiri, Honorable John Kier Wambui, Honorable Lois Wanjaki Mondo, Honorable Mary Waithera Waweru, Honorable Simon Bogomboro, Honorable Samuel Madhu Wainaina, Honorable Suleiman Kihika Kimani, Honorable Esther Wajiko Muhuhu, Honorable Jacinta Wangari Githai, and Honorable Zachary Mwangijeru.
Very well. Quorum having been recognized, then we shall proceed with the business for the sitting, but I will use my discretion and invoke the provisions of Standing Order number 41-2 on how to conduct the businesses. And in this one is that the communication from the chair will be the last business to be transacted during this sitting, and therefore, Crack, we shall proceed with the other business as per the order paper, but the communication from the chair will come last. Also, the general statement by the leader of majority, which I have approved, shall come just before the closing remarks or the address by the speaker. So it will be business as per the order paper, but reorganized so such that the general statement by the leader of majority shall be the second last business, followed by the last business for the day, which will be the communication by the speaker. We proceed.
Order number 1, administration of all. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no business to transact under this order.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair. As per your direction, the same will be done later.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no business to transact under this order.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are no petitions to be presented, nor any to be sent to the Senate.
Next order.
Order number 5, other papers. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is a paper to be laid by Honorable Samuel Jadha Kenyajui, the Chairperson Committee on Administration, Public Administration and ICT.
Very well. The member for engineer and chair of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT, Honorable Samuel Jadha Kenyajui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to table an addendum to the report of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption of the recruitment of early childhood development and education ECD teachers in the county, and I table.
Very well, honorable members, that document is duly tabled, which is an addendum to the previous report by the same committee, which was dated the June 2022 and had been tabled in the House on the 15th day of June 2022 by the designated member of that committee, Honorable Georgina Wajiru Shira. So this is an addendum to that. So that report had already been moved, but there were issues that were to be addressed, and therefore there was a request, a directive from the chair, that the committee comes up with a final information by way of a report or an addendum to the main report, addressing all the issues or all the lacunas that were left on the main report. So the House Business Committee shall give directions, if it has already not done so, on how this addendum shall be transacted on. Next.
Order number 6, order notices of motion. There is a notice of motion to be given by Honorable Samuel Jada Kenyajui, the Chairperson Committee on Public Administration and ICT.
Very well, the member for Engineer and Chair Committee on Public Administration and ICT, Honorable Samuel Jada Kenyajui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to give notice to the following motion that this House does adopt the addendum to the report of the Committee of Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption, that is the recruitment of early childhood development and ECD teachers in the county, as a report of the House and the recommendations therein as the resolutions of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well. The notice of that particular motion having been given, further directions shall be given, if not already given, by the House Business Committee on how the same shall be transacted on. Next.
Order number 7, other statements. There is a statement, but as per your direction, it will come at the motion of adjournment.
Next.
Order number 8, other motions and bills. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are no bills to be considered, but there is a motion by Honorable Samuel Jada Kenyajui, the Chairperson Committee on Public Administration and ICT.
Very well, the member for Engineer and the Chair of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT, Honorable Samuel Jada Kenyajui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to move the following motion that the notice of the motion of the addendum to the report of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption, recruitment of early childhood development and education, ECD teachers in the county, be exempted from the requirements of Standing Orders 48(5)B that requires a notice of motion be given at least 1 day before the motion appears on the order paper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I call Honorable Ken to second.
The member for Karau, Honorable Ken Mukira.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second. I second.
Honorable members, that motion having been moved and seconded, I now wish to propose the question on the motion, which is that motion on the addendum to the report of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of adoption, that is also absorption, or rather recruitment of early childhood development and education, ECD teachers in the county, be exempted from the requirements of Standing Order number 485B. That requires that a notice of motion be given at least 1 day before the motion appears on the order paper. Honourable members, I now wish to put the question on the motion, which is that the motion on the addendum to the report of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption or recruitment of early childhood development and education, that is ECD teachers in the county, be exempted from the requirements of Standing Order number 485B. That requires a notice of motion be given at least 1 day before the motion appears on the order paper. As many as are of similar opinion say aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. That relief is duly granted, and therefore the substantive motion can be transacted on. Next.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as you have put, the substantive motion will be moved by Honorable Samuel Jada Kenyanjui, the Chairperson Committee on Public Administration and ICT.
Well, the member for Engineer and Chair, Committee on Public Administration and ICT, Honorable Samuel Jada Kenyanjui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. On the 22nd day of June 2022, the House did debate on the motion on adoption of the report of Public Administration and ICT on the absorption or recruitment of the early childhood development and education ECD teachers in the county. In the second said report, the committee had in part recommended that in exercise of its constitutional mandates, the House does demand that the County Public Service Board, in collaboration with the County Secretary and the Head of Public Service, does within 7 days submit without failure all the verifiable documents of on the engagement of the preparatory assistants. The documents must contain information on the actual status of absorption recruitment of the 381 preparatory assistants. Particularly, the CSB must prove that the preparatory assistants were actually recruited as it claims in its submissions in the to the committee. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the House resolved as follows: that the clerk to the County Assembly does write a letter to the governor urging the letter to take action on the above said recommendation, Moreover, the House granted the committee 72 hours to make its last submission to the House regarding implementation of a letter reference not to the Public Service Board, and that dated 24th June 2022, he wrote to the Secretary of the County Public Service Board and requesting the letter to submit letters of engagement of the 381 ECD teachers whose recruitment was in question. The committee comprises of the following members: Jada Samuel Kinyanjui, I, who is the chair, my vice chair, Georgina Wanjiro Shera, Hussein Kasana Dogo, Honorable, and Mary Jari Wajau, Honorable Sarume Gadoni Kamau, Honorable Sulaiman Kimani Kihika, Honorable Gumo Gamau, Honorable Ennard Wambogo Kingori, and Honorable Madhu Wainaina. Our committee secretariat, during the compilation of this addendum, was headed by our committee clerk, David Motahi Dongo. Mr. Speaker, the committee established under 195 with the mandates and the functions to investigate, inquire into, and report all that matters relating to the mandate, management, activities, administration, operations, and estimates of assigned departments. B, study program and policy objectives of the departments and effectiveness of the implementation. C, study and review all county registration referred to it. D, study, access, and analyze the relative success of the department as measured by the results obtained as compared with the stated objectives. E, investigate and inquire into all matters relating to assigned departments as they may deem necessary and as may be referred to them by the Assembly. F, vet and report on all appointments where the Constitution or any law requires the Assembly to approve. And G, make reports and recommendations to the Assembly as often as possible, including recommendations of the proposed registration. Mr. Speaker, the committee profoundly acknowledges the Office of the Speaker and the Office of the Clerk for logistical and technical support they provided, which made it possible the effective and timely execution of the responsibility bestowed upon it. In relation to this, I take this opportunity to appreciate all members of the committee and the Secretariat, as well as for the selfless efforts they invested towards compilation of this addendum. And their commitment could not go unnoticed. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the committee, it's my distinguished duty and pleasure to present to the House the committee addendum to report on the absorption of the early childhood development education teachers in the county for approval and adoption. Mr. Speaker, the County Public Service Board made a letter referenced that, dated 3rd June 2022, submitted to the committee copies of letters of appointment of the 381 preparatory assistants in question. These include: 1. Copies of letters of the 315 preparatory assistants who met the minimum requirements for appointments into service dictated by the scheme of service for the early childhood development and education personnel. And 2, copies of letters of the 66 preparatory assistants who do not meet the minimum requirements for the appointment into service dictated by the scheme of service for early childhood development and educational personnel. Their designations, job groups, and numbers in every job group are stipulated below. The designations, the groups in every job group of the 315 preparatory assistants. The diagram below stipulates the number of the applicants. ECD 1, ECD Quality Assurance Officer 3, job group K, they were 7 in number. 2, ECD Teacher 3, job group H, they were 158 in number. Number 3, Assistant ECD Teacher 3, job group F, they were 150 in number, that totaling to 315. B, those that applied in the clerical officer to job group F, there was only 1 applicant in that category. Senior support staff, job group D, there were 6 applicants. Support staff 1, job group C, there were 12 applicants. Support staff 3, job group A, there were 47 applicants. That means the total applicants were 66 in number. Mr. Speaker, all the stated copies of the letters of appointment of the preparatory assistants as submitted to the committee by the County Public Service Board are attached in Annexure 1. Mr. Speaker, premised on the proceedings of the committee recommendations, the committee recommends as follows: that the County Public Service Board, in full collaboration with the relevant authorities, does implement the scheme of service of the early childhood development and early and education personnel with unrevealed steadfastness and an undoubted transparency. Thus, the County Public Service Board does continue upholding the professional integrity and occupational dignity of all the ECD personnel in the service. 3, that the County Secretary and Head of Public Service does ensure that deployment of the 66 ECD teachers is done in a way that will not disrupt their normal life. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, the committee reiterates that the County Public Service Board must continue ensuring appropriate career planning and succession management as regards to the ECD personnel in the county. On the same note, the committee urges the County Public Service Board to engage all the relevant county institutions and authorities in promoting the welfare and career accountability of the said personnel. This it should do while adhering to what the doctrines dictates on the Constitution and the relevant laws and regulations that abide to it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call Honorable Ken to second.
Very well, the member for Karau, Honorable Ken Mukera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second, and I second.
Okay, I think I'm told there is a mix-up there. The motion was never read, so I think the chair, you read the motion, and then declare that you have moved it, and then the member for Karau can come in.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the following motion, that the notice of the motion, that the motion of addendum okay, sorry. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the substantive motion. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion, that this House does adopt the addendum to the report on Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption, recruitment of early childhood development education teachers in the county as a report of this House and recommendations therein as the resolutions of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I call Honorable Ken to second.
Well, member for Karau,
Thank you, Mr.
Honorable
Speaker.
Ken Mukera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Yes, honored members, I now wish to propose the question on the motion, which is that this House does adopt the addendum to the report of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption, that is recruitment of early childhood development and education, that is ECD teachers in the county, as a report of the House and the recommendations therein as the resolutions of the House. Well, the member for Wanjoy, Honorable Isaac Kongo Wanjiru.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to appreciate your office and the clerk's office, together with the chairman, ICT, for that report and an elaborate report. Even as the situation prevails that so many members are very busy and committed in their campaigns, actually we are able to deliver something in this plenary for discussion. Mr. Speaker, within your discretion, I want you to allow me, because there was a little oversight, when we did the statement, because I was the source of the statement, I was not notified when the statement was done, and so I noted that there was some elements that were not. I wanted this being captured into the Hansard for future and for the third assembly, because I think this is a matter that will require further interrogation when the third assembly comes. I also did not get the chair inviting me when he retired to write the report for my for my input, and I thought at that point I would have provided some crucial information, and at the same time I was not aware when the main substantive motion for this report was discussed in the assembly. All that notwithstanding, I felt that, Mr. Speaker, you realize that we have 3 categories of ECD teachers. And in this report, we have elaborately discussed 1 category. And this single category that we have been able to provide the information or the county pet, meaning that the initial or the former County Public Service Board had engaged them. They were employees in a way of the county of Nyandarua, by the virtue that they were receiving stipends from the county government of Nyandarua. But, Mr. Speaker, you realize that after the scheme of service, the Nyandarua County said that they are going to recruit all the teachers to be permanent and pensionable. There is another category of teachers, Mr. Speaker, the 2 categories. The second category is the 200 who have been invited for interview. And the third categories are the others who have been left without knowing their future happened to them. They have been put into permanent and pensionable scheme, and those who did not qualify have been redeployed elsewhere. But there is another 200 who have been invited for interview. There is another 200 who are outside there. They don't know their future. And Mr. Speaker, when I was reading the scheme of service, and this was my concern initially, I noted something very important in the scheme of service, because it is stated about the qualification of an ECD teacher. And if you look at the minimum qualification for an ECD teacher at grade 3, you realize that they say that you should have a Kenya certificate of secondary education with a minimum grade of D. That was my concern. Because within the 200 teachers who have been called for interview, we have so many teachers who have not met that qualification. And this is the gist of the matter. If you look at this scheme of service on the transitional clause, it says it only deploy for those who had initially been engaged by the County Public Service Board. Those 200 have not been engaged. They were the parents' pay. So it only means when they come for interview, they don't qualify and they will go home automatically. For the 66 are happy because initially they have been engaged, they have been deployed. But for within the 200 and the other 200, if they come and they don't meet the minimum qualification of the D, then automatically they are not qualified, they go home, and these are our people who have been giving services to the ECD for even 30 years. Because most of those who don't have D, they are people who did the previous curriculum, and they will be ruled out. And for my concern was, even as we look at this transition, we provoke that even if they had not been engaged by the County Public Service Board, nobody is going to lose his job or her job. They are going to be treated just as the other group that has been receiving the stipend. I don't want to bring back that debate, but I feel because this is a continuing matter, the office of the clerk will take up the matter for the third assembly. Because I think the assembly will come, and because this is a matter that is continuing on recruitment, such that we are not going to discriminate or either treat our people, and more specifically, our ECD teacher, unfairly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Majority Leader and the Member for Githioro, Honorable Simon Sambege Mukuri.
Mr. Speaker, thank you also for giving me this opportunity to ventilate on this issue that is very emotive and that is affecting our people on the ground. Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank the Chair for a well-presented report. Mr. Speaker, you realize that this report is talking about things or happenings that have happened too late in the day. Mr. Speaker, it is like the honors of promoting the teachers and rewarding them is being pushed to the next government, whoever is going to be there. This is long overdue and should have been done a long time ago when the County of Governors passed the resolution to have all the counties implement this particular resolution. Mr. Speaker, I would like to call upon the executive at this juncture to move with speed and sensitize the people on the ground who have otherwise been topping up the stipends that the teachers have been getting, because our citizens continue to suffer because they are still paying the top-up to the teachers. This information, Mr. Speaker, has not been communicated, and in my sojourn across the world, I've had parents complain that they are still paying the top-up despite the harsh economic times. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is, in the rule of natural justice, it is very unfair to deny a teacher who has been in service for 20 years, serving our children, some of them are known to be very successful people in this country, simply because a new grade, a new criteria has been introduced in terms of a grade. Mr. Speaker, even in other fields, sometimes experience of our time surpasses the physical paper. So I would urge the executive to move quickly and employ those teachers, those ECD teachers who have served for such a long time that they don't know anything else. In fact, they are driven by passion to serve the children. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Honourable members, that motion having been exhausted, I will now wish to put the question on the motion that this House does adopt the addendum to the report of the Committee on Public Administration and ICT on the status of absorption or recruitment of early childhood development and ECD, that is ECD teachers in the county as a report of the House and the recommendations therein as the resolutions of the House. As many as are of similar opinion say aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it, and therefore this addendum is also taken, just as was the main report. And I cannot agree more with the two members who have been able to isolate our ECD assistants as into the three categories. And we are proud, the executive. Although in my closing remarks I've indicated that I'm not sure whether there are any salaries provided in the budget for those recruited. And
Mr. Speaker, sorry to interject. I understand that they have been paid, and I wonder where the money came from.
Okay, yeah, but it was my concern that we might be doing this for political gerrymandering when there was no provisions in the budget. But if they have been paid, I think that is good enough for us. But obviously, the rule of law must always be upheld, and there was no difficulty in providing that money in the budget. But that said, we are happy for the 381. We are happy for the 66. That is an issue I did addressed in my remarks, which I will read after the whole debate. But as it has been said very ably by the member for Wanjohi and the member for Gidioro, I think we need as a county to look into the scheme of service. And actually, the scheme of service, I don't know how far it is binding on us. And if we are not breaching the law, I think the first assembly had clearly resolved that all the ECD's teachers who are in service be given the first priority. And I think that resolution has never been vacated, and we shall be urging the third assembly and also the office of the clerk to make a communication to the office of the governor with a copy to the Minister for Education to ensure that that resolution on giving priority to those already serving, that it is upheld, so that those already not in the scheme and those without those minimum qualifications as per the scheme, but they are in service, they are given the first priority. That is the best we can do for our people. As it has been said, some of them have taught for 30 years, others 20 years. I think those with the minimum is about 10 years. You cannot ask that particular teacher who has been teaching for at least 10 years that now you are disqualified because of some papers which were written in Nairobi. It does not make any sense to anybody. And therefore we shall expect that this is why devolution came. We have to address that issue as a county and deliver justice to our ECD teachers without those qualifications which have been brought into operation. I would also want to know where this scheme of service was passed and who passed it and what is, because a scheme of service definitely must go through a process. This scheme of service to me is mere paper, and therefore they cannot bind us. We have to do justice to our ECD teachers, with or without that scheme of service. Next.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as per your direction, and, in accordance with Standing Order 41, we'll have a statement by Honorable Simon Sabege Mukuria, the leader of the majority party, at ordinance number 7.
Yes, Member Brigadier and the leader of majority, Honorable Simon Sabege Mukuria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, with your leave, I beg to issue the following general statement pursuant to Standing Order 44. Mr. Speaker, aware that this House is expected to adjourn Sunday from today, the 5th day of July 2022, which marks the final sitting of this second assembly, I wish to note the following. Mr. Speaker, sir, the County Assembly is charged with the mandates of registration, representation, and oversight, which includes approval of annual budget estimates, county plans, policies, and public appointments. The second assembly of this House has discharged these mandates with unwavering commitment, though faced with myriad of challenges. On oversight, the Nyandarua County Assembly has continually utilized its tool of statements and motions to put the executive in check. Various committees of the County Assembly have compiled over 200 reports which have been processed in the House as response to statements sought by members and also as motions. The County Assembly has also considered and approved all the plans and policies submitted by the County Assembly, County Assembly. Notably, the County Assembly did approve the County Integrated Development Plan for 2017 to 2022 in 2018, and has annually approved all annual development plans, fiscal strategy papers, budget estimates, among others. The County Assembly has also considered all appointments and approved almost all while disapproving a few, which fell below the legal statutory requirements. On the part of registration, Mr. Speaker, the Nyandarua County Assembly has enacted several key acts that have propelled the delivery of services to the people of Nyandarua. Notably, the following key registrations have been enacted. 1. The Nyandarua County Trade Development and Investment Authority Act of 2020. 2. The Nyandarua County Climate Change Act of 2021. 3. The Nyandarua County Bursary Fund of 2019. 4. The Nyandarua County Alcoholic Drinks Control Bill of 2019. 5. The Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2019, popularly known as Punguza Mzigo. 6. The Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill of 2022, also known as the Building Bridges Initiative, that is the BBI. 7. 5 finance bills. And finally, Mr. Speaker, and not least, over 12 annual supplementary budget estimates, among others. Mr. Speaker, sir, the County Assembly has also ably represented the people and helped on the alleviation of suffering meted on them by the harsh economic times. Some of the initiatives that the County Assembly has originated and spearheaded are the irreducible minimums on all the budgets that have ensured equity and equality in development across the wards. Free milk feeding program initiated through a motion by Honorable Catherine Wairimunjane, the Reshao Karogaine water project initiated by Honorable Justice Gaite Wagura, among other major initiatives. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the part of the administration, the County Assembly Service Board, led by the Speaker, has been able to construct an office block for the staff and members of the County Assembly as Speaker's residence, and also automated the County Assembly chambers to ensure it is paperless. The County Assembly has also had a hybrid of physical and virtual sittings necessitated by the need to reduce physical contact in the fight against COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe that the Nyandarua County Assembly has served its purpose though faced with huge challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic and the turmoil that visited the County Assembly by external forces though unfortunately with the help of some of us. The happenings of the latter was unfortunately a big dent to the autonomy of the County Assembly, and I hope that Assembly will fight to keep its independence free from the interference of the County Executive and the national government. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as we officially adjourn this House, I extend my wishes and goodwill to all the members of this Assembly. For those seeking a re-election, I wish you the very best in your campaigns. For those who are not seeking re-election, I wish you the very best in your future endeavors. I also wish the staff of the County Assembly the very best in their service to the people. Mr. Speaker, as I stand here, as we now come to the end of this second Assembly, I remember with nostalgia the very many moments that we have shared with my colleagues. I can't forget, Mr. Speaker, to thank my colleagues who stood by me when I was very sick and at the point of death. Thank you so much, and I will forever be indebted to you, members of this Assembly. For those other members of the executive who stood by me, I also thank them. For those who did not meet their part of the pledges, I also wish them well and hope that they in future honor their pledges. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I now wish, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28 and 29 on the calendar of the Assembly, this House does adjourn sine die. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I call Honorable Gashomba to second.
Very well, the member for Jabini Kiburu, Honorable James Keiro Gashomba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I like to support the adjournment and also the sine die of the Second Assembly. And before I do that, I want to appreciate some of our aspirants visited this Assembly today together as we sine die. I can see an aspirant from Carrara. I also can see an aspirant from Jabini and Banamati is competing with me. There's another aspirant. From which ward? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the good work that has been done by this Second Assembly. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that members of this Assembly, their mandate, it's anchored in the law. And Mr. Speaker, our first mandate is to oversight and also to represent and also to do registrations. It has been said by our majority leader, that Mr. Speaker, we have passed many statements in this honorable House. Though, Mr. Speaker, we had many challenges in terms of implementing those resolutions. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, it has also highlighted on the CIDP 1 and 2 that has been resoluted by this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, other documents, you had the county anti-development plan, which is the ADP. We had so many county fiscal treasury paper. Also the county budget review and analytical paper. And also, Mr. Speaker, the budget estimates and also its appropriation to various departments in this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, you've seen other areas that this Assembly has ventured into in terms of budget process. Whereby, Mr. Speaker, as an Assembly, we arrive on how, Mr. Speaker, we distributed our resources to
to our ward. And there is that issue of the decent minimum that was brought forward by this honorable house. Well, Mr. Speaker, as an assembly, we appropriated at least in every ward about 30 or so million, which were to be appropriated in those priority areas, e.g. road networks. We had water provision to our people, and also appropriated in social budget. Mr. Speaker, we have seen tremendous transformation to our youths and other people in our villages. Mr. Speaker, we have challenges as an assembly. You know very well that budget implementation has been hindered by budget implementation, whereby, Mr. Speaker, when this honorable house passes the budget, it is forwarded to the county government for further appropriation. And Mr. Speaker, we've witnessed challenges in BQ preparations, whereby, Mr. Speaker, monitoring and evaluation had also been a thorn issue in this assembly and also in the county assembly as a whole. And Mr. Speaker, works that were done, some of them, Mr. Speaker, would not even meet the standards. And Mr. Speaker, in terms of monitoring and evaluation, I actually appreciate this house because it come up with a document that will be able to monitor and evaluate what has been done in terms of quarterly times. Mr. Speaker, we have also challenge. We have also experienced challenges in budget absorption at a very bad situation when this county was recorded not to appropriate as it is. We had other challenges, but Mr. Speaker, this county was and also the nation, the ravage of COVID-19, which has affected the economy of our county and also the nation at large. While, Mr. Speaker, the budget, the revenue enhancement was also a problem. We could not be able to collect as had been targeted by the county assembly and also as a budget committee. Mr. Speaker, as we adjourn and get to the Sendai, what I can appeal is that let us do our campaigns in a peaceful environment. Let us try to give our people a manifesto and the reform because we want to vote and all that. Let us try to cooperate and have peace. Political parties, Mr. Speaker, are just a vehicle to the next destination. Let us give our people a manifesto where we are heading to and what we want. I wish everyone in this honorable house, either in UDA, either in ODM, either in Jubilee, to get out there and look for votes. Let us look for votes. We don't have ODM in this honorable assembly, but we have the UDA. No, I mean, that's a movement. Honorable member. Okay, Mr. Speaker, as we engage ourselves in politics also there, let's try to sell our manifesto to our people, and let us do peaceful campaigns. Because Nyandarua County, by 9th of August, it will remain as Nyandarua. The Republic of Kenya will remain the Republic of Kenya. Let us preach peace and unity as we move forward to help our people and also to develop this great county of Nyandarua. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to support. Thank you.
Members, that motion having been moved and successfully seconded, I now wish to propose the question on the motion, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28 and 29 on the calendar of the Assembly of this House, as amended, this House does adjourn Sendai. Yes, a member for Karau, Honorable Ken Mukera.
The County Assembly of Nyandarua, and also appreciate the good people for Karau Ward. In the first assembly, they brought a neighbor leader, that was Honorable Sami Ngodo Kamau,
who kept to the standard of this assembly, who kept the mandates of a member of county assembly, legislative oversight and representation. Further, he have kept further to go to a senior slot to be the member of parliament for Kalau constituency, having been groomed nicely in this assembly. Mr. Speaker, I also appreciate the people for Kara Ward having given me an opportunity to be in this assembly, to exercise their, and also by grooming me to be a better leader. Mr. Speaker, I also appreciate the staff of this assembly, mostly the Catholics, whom formed a small Christian community in this assembly during my time, named St. Louis, a small Christian group led by Lucy, Washuka, and Aurelia. And it have brought what was my slogan in my manifesto, that we are looking for good governance with godly leadership. It have really showed that the county assembly got godly people, staff, and leaders in this county. I also wish to appreciate the committee I chaired, the Intergovernmental Committee. Among the highlighted the 6 legislative bills that were enacted in this house, we have the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2019, Punguza Mzigo. It was a mandate of my committee, and through the able leadership and the support of my committee, we did the best, and we brought reports and recommendations of our people to this house, and we did what they wanted. Mr. Speaker, we still had the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, that is the Building Bridges Initiative. It was also directed by your office to my committee that I chaired, and still on it we undertook public participation to see to it that the people of Nyandarua, 1, were informed, 2, they give their direct recommendation to this house, which were also followed by the assembly. Mr. Speaker, I also appreciate the office of the clerk, who have been very instrumental to our well-being in this assembly for the 5 years. And the office have seen to it that all members were in all equal measures treated equally, with equity and with uniformity in all matters pertaining this assembly. Mr. Speaker, I can also not forget to appreciate your office that you chair, that despite the up and downs, that some of us could not access the assembly, some of us were treated like animals when they came to a house that they were elected to represent by the police. We all stood firm and prayed that this assembly can sit again and undertake what we saw by the Bible, to protect and to walk in the interest of our people, not in the interest of our stomach. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to send a warning to the executive, who, after respecting their role in the Constitution of Kenya, some took further to harass members of this assembly by making sure that some of the procurement projects for respective wards were not done, as a way to tame members and to harass the community members were elected from, forgetting to it that one day, the 9th of August 2022 will come, and they'll face the better truth of the people by the ballot. The same assembly, we came on board, brought machineries that were to help the people of Nyandarua, not the members elected in this house. But we also saw to it that those machines were also used as political tool by the CEO of this county to harass the elected members as a way of selfish interest. Forgetting the 9th of August 2022 is also coming, and the people of Nyandarua will exercise the direct mandate by the vote of ballot and send them home. So, Mr. Speaker, I also appreciate the party I currently serve, that is the UDA party, that irrespective of being in the party, this assembly, in the two first assembly and the second assembly, we have never had an opposition leader, members from the ODM. We have always had the leadership and members from the government side. So in the first government, we had the TNA team in this assembly, and we appreciate that from the county members of Nyandarua. In the second assembly, we had the Jubilee, that was the government of the day. And also in the third government, by the election of the Rurie member, that is Honorable Muraya on a UDA ticket, it is an assured message to the people of Nyandarua that the third coming government is the UDA government, the Kenya Kwanza, that Mr. Speaker, you're also part of. So we appreciate the members. After almost all of them, I will use the word almost all of them, were able to forget their party that brought them to the house, and they were able to resign and join the UDA party as an assurity that they want to be in the current government and in the future government. So, Mr. Speaker, as a member of this assembly, we wish also to appreciate the honorable members that we came to be a family, the 39 of us. We have walked the journey together. I believe there's a bridge that were not the bridge that was created along the way. And since these are a God-fearing assembly, I pray and hope that as we leave this assembly, we'll be able to forgive one another, we'll be able to walk happily again, and we'll be able at least to meet again in life and appreciate the second assembly as an instrument and a place for building a better Nyandarua. God bless Nyandarua. God bless our Deputy President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, as he comes in as the fifth president of this nation. And God bless members of this county assembly. God bless you. Asante, Mr. Speaker, sir.
County member from Karau, Honorable Esther Nyambura Mwangi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to also support this motion on Sindai by first of all thanking God, the God that brought me to this assembly. It has been nice being here. I also would want to appreciate the Jubilee Party. It's a party through which I came to this assembly. And I would also want to appreciate all the members with whom we've shared moments in this assembly, good and bad. For in as much as I want to appreciate the Jubilee Party, when I came in, I remember we took oaths of office, which we tried so much to honor. And at some point, the party turned against us. And I want to urge all other political parties, please don't turn against your members when they get to the assembly, and let them stay true to the cause of the assembly or to the wishes of the party.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
So is it Majority Leader and Member for Gavia?
Mr. Speaker, I do appreciate that there are many people who have been injured in the course of our journey in this assembly. But I don't think that it is in order, Mr. Speaker, for the honorable member to make allegations to the effect that the Jubilee Party turned against them. Mr. Speaker, I would like to categorically say, as the chairman of the Jubilee caucus in this assembly and in Nyandarua, and being a Jubilee member and also the majority leader in this assembly, that the difficulties that the members went through, which are regrettable, were actually orchestrated by individuals for their own selfish interest. The party is not to blame. Thank you.
Thank you, the honorable member. I see you're trying so hard to stay true to your party, which is very correct and right, but that is the outstanding, amazing fact. We were mistreated by the party, but we still thank the party and we still appreciate the party and hold it in very high esteem. So I have really had it nice being in this assembly, and I've said I want to appreciate all the members. This has been a good school, a school worth attending. Because in this school, I have learned quite a number of things. And thanks to every member, I've learned that one of the most valuable gifts in life is a loyal friend. But I realized that in politics, you don't have a loyal friend. Another thing I learned is that honesty is an expensive gift, but you can never get it from cheap people. Well, the other thing I would want to say is, and the speaker can attest to this, within the lessons that I've learned in this assembly, is that sometimes God's put a Goliath in your life for you to find the David in you. And I'm sure the Honorable Speaker can attest to that. And quite a number of other members can also attest to that. What I've learned also is that being in this assembly, and even for those who are willing to come back, and those new members that are willing to come in, it only takes the hand of God for you to be here. For those that are in the race, I still wish you well. And even for the ones that were here, that could be coming back, I wish you well, and I wish you a smooth transition. And the other thing is, I would want to ask the members that are coming in, please, when you get back to this house, please stay true to your cause. Please serve this county with the dignity it deserves. Because this is our county, our mother county, please protect the integrity of this house, protect the interests of the people of Nyandarua, for the blessings of God to follow you. And now back to those that are coming back, and those for the very new ones, welcome back to the house of drama. Because there'll always be drama in this house. You like it or you don't. But just stay true to your cause. Thank you, and God bless you all.
And you'll be checking whether there are any members on the platform who do want to contribute. Oh, the member for Wanjoy, Honorable Isaac Kongo Wanjiru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to take this opportunity to support this motion of Sindai. Mr. Speaker, I'm a bit sorrowful because I remember that day on September 2017 when we first raided here, very vibrant house, full, people with an expectation, people who had a promise for the future, and people who are very passionate to work for this county. When I look at us today, just a bunch of us who are here to bid goodbye to this assembly, I'm a bit sorrowful. I can only defer this with the words of the Paul in the book of Galatians 3:3. Who unto us, but you chose to start in the spirit and end in flesh. This can be seen and can be felt in this house. That notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to be very grateful to God Almighty, who have given me that chance and opportunity and good health to participate and to do the mandates of this assembly for the 5 years. It has been a journey that has faced a lot of challenges. I have learned. I think I've grown in terms of wisdom, experience, and knowledge. And I also want to thank the people of Wanjohi Ward, the great people of Wanjohi Ward, who gave me that opportunity to come into this assembly. As we come to an end of this second assembly, I know and I feel in my heart that I have done within what is humanly possible within me to represent my people, to oversight, and even to legislate. And this is an experience that I'll always remember. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank all the members and the honorable members of this assembly. It's been a great moment. They've become my friends. I think even as I'm leaving this assembly, they're all 37 members. Because unfortunately, within the course of the journey, we lost 2 of our members, of our dear members. But I think all the 38 members, because there was another one who came later, member for Lori, remains my close friends. Despite great differences and the turmoil that faced this assembly, our friendship have remained. Despite differences in principles and perception, I still feel that they are friends, and even as we leave and we go out there, we remain friends because this institution made us come together. We didn't know, some of them, we didn't know each other before, but this assembly gave us a chance. And I want to appreciate every contribution that have been made. Some of them have sharpened me, and they have made me see life even in a different way. I also want to appreciate the staff. Actually, Mr. Speaker, the greatest asset that we have in this institution is the staff of this assembly. They are very professional. They have remained professional despite so many challenges. And actually, I will live to remember so many activities that we have undertaken with the staff. Great minds, great people. And I can tell most of them, because they are young, there is a great future ahead for them. And I'm very proud because this institution have remained intact, mostly because of the staff members of this assembly. Continue serving the people of Nyandarua. You have great knowledge, and even for the coming land assembly, continue providing your service. I'll always remember those budget sessions and so many other sessions that we have had. Those sessions that we had great cracks in my committee implementation, and these people have been doing great work. They may go unnoticed because most of them, they don't come here in the plenary to represent, but we give what they give to us. But as we come to a conclusion of this second assembly, just know that we really appreciated your support for us to conduct our mandate. Mr. Speaker, all is not lost. Even where we have failed, it can only get lost if you don't run. And it is my desire that even the third assembly, when it comes, it will take time to reflect and run, so that wherever we took the path that was not appropriate, we will not repeat the same path, but they will take that chance to run and know that if they take the same path, they will get the same results. But if they change the path, they will get better results. Oh, it's not lost. I would not want to take this opportunity to blame anybody. Maybe it was ordained such a time as that such things would happen for a better future. And we were chosen ones to carry the cross, maybe for the future generation to learn how an institution should not be run and how an institution should be run. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to wish my colleagues well. For those who are still in the race, I wish you well. For those who have gone out, as you transit to the next level, I know that God will go with you. You get something and better things to do. All is not done. There is so much to provide and to give for this county and even for this country. And I know the experience that you have got from this assembly have prepared you to be better people, even outside there. And we look forward every other time to see you serving and even flying and shining outside there. So I'm very grateful, and I thank God that such a time as this, we are all alive to witness the sign die of the second assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Engineer, Honorable Samuel Jada Kinyanjui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I rise in support of the adjournment or the sign die. And on the onset, I would like to appreciate my people, whom I do represent here, the people or the great people, Engineer Ward. I would rather say they have made me proud for having brought me here to represent them. And I have represented them in the best way I would have done. And also, I would rather say that it's a day that maybe I would have liked my colleagues to be here as we entered this house, a full house. But I don't know why they are burying their heads in the sand. So, and they did think of not attending today's session or our last session, but maybe they know best why they decided not to come. But I would have liked them to be here because I know, as my colleagues have put it, we have gone through some very awkward situations when trying to take our responsibility in this house. I know I've also been beaten up. I'd like to say sorry to those who did so to me and wish them well as they join our communities in our homes as we prepare maybe to come back, or maybe to those that won't make it, wish them a better life as they proceed with their normal lives. Anyway, in their absentia, I do pardon them and maybe urge them not to ever use their muscles on to their colleagues just because of the influence of some monetary gains or some monetary favors that they would expect from whatever quotas they were serving. But I would urge them to live to their noble task or whatever had brought them here, and the assembly would have been able to do its oversight role properly. But anyway, let me leave it at that. To the people I do represent of engineer, it's my honor to appreciate whatever we have been able to maybe to go about on the ground, and it's my sincere opportunity or heart to urge you to think of re-electing me or renewing my contract to be able to continue serving you in this assembly, and see to it that I do represent you to whatever height that I would have wished, or if not for the atmosphere that we underwent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Any person on the platform? None? All right. This is a motion that does not require to be responded to, and in any event, the majority is not here. I will now make my statement as we go sign die, and maybe for sign die, for ease of understanding, is a Latin word that says simply without day. So is that you are John and you don't fix a day when the assembly or when a meeting shall convene again. In what we call legalese, where is my area of operation, is where you are John indefinitely. That is the sign die and indefinitely. They can be used interchangeably. that a meeting has ended. The convention of this assembly has ended without a date being designated for the resumption of business. And having said that, I would wish to recognize some friends who have visited me today and have been kind enough to sit through this bit on Sunday. I have my friend Honorable Martin Ishuhe. He is from Jabine Kiburu, and he is contesting for the MCA seat in that ward under Chama Chakazi ticket, that is CCK. That is the party which I lead in this county. We also have Stephen Mwaura. Stephen Mwaura is also a friend, and he is contesting for the Gadara ward seat, also in Kinangop, on the ticket of Usawa kwa wote. And with him also is another friend and a citizen of this county, also resident in the same ward, by the name of Francis Murago. So all of you, you feel welcome. We say that this assembly is the people's assembly, and all the people of Nyandarua have always followed an open door policy for this assembly, except at that particular time when it had been militarized and had been taken over by the police. And we hope that that is an episode that will never be repeated anywhere in a democracy, even in banana republics. It has never happened elsewhere in times of peace. So members, as we go sign die on this 5th day of July 2022, I would wish to say that honorable members of the August House, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I hope it is still morning. There is a Kiswahili proverb which says, kilicho na mwanzo sharti kiwe na mwisho, meaning that whatever has a beginning must have an ending. On the 5th of September 2017, all of us seated here and those online and those elsewhere were sworn in to serve our various electorates in accordance with the Constitution. The moment is now here for bidding farewell to this August House, albeit hopefully temporarily, for those yearning to come back after the general elections, which will be held on Tuesday, the 9th day of August 2022. Honorable members, it is paramount to apprise ourselves of our scorecard, not only as a house, but also as a county government in which we form an integral part. The main purpose of history is to inform where we have come from, with a few of enumerating successes and failures, and most importantly, picking lessons that will enable them avoid future pitfalls. That is why I'm making this communication today. In this house, we have had great times, some not so great times together. We have seen it all: the good, the bad, the ugly, the ominous, and the plain unfortunate. We have celebrated our wins and grieved of our losses, both individually and collectively. In particular, we fondly remember our departed colleagues, namely Honorable John Boro Gedeji, Arias Wamaria, who, until his demise, was the MCA for Uri Ward, and Honorable Margaret Wanjiro Dongo, popularly known as Mumbi, a specially elected MCA from Jabini Kiburu Ward. And by this we say that may their souls continue resting in eternal peace. We cannot forget Honorable Mirka Wanjiro Dirango, a trailblazer who became the first president of the women chapter or caucus within the County Assembly's forum, which I read as its president. She further taught us a new lesson in synergy when she crossed over to the other arm and became a celebrated County Executive Committee member for water, tourism, and natural resources. Honorable members, we joined this August House filled with hope and determination to transform the lives of our electorate. Truly, 2017 was a year of renewed hope for Nyandarua. We hoped and believed that by the end of our 5-year tenure, no child would be left behind in the expected ideal and conventional development. That our ECD children would have sound grounding with sufficient pedagogical and infrastructural facilities, sufficient and well-motivated teachers, an effective feeding program, and availability of capitation fees. We set out to revamp our vocational and technical training institutes to attract and cater for not only the youth whose grades fell below the universities and colleges' entry threshold, but also those whose preference tipped towards acquisition of practical skills. This we sought to do by proposing better terms for the TVET instructors, issuance of county government tenders to the TVETs, and safeguarding the national government's subsidized youth polytechnic tuition, that is SYPT, capitation fees. We lobbied for a parcel of land which was graciously donated by Mesa Salient Secondary School, on which our dream to build a university for Nyandarua was anchored. We found that the 96 casual workers who had served this county for over a decade would finally be given what has always been rightfully theirs, to be absorbed and confirmed under permanent and pensionable terms. We agreed in one accord that the health sector in Nyandarua would never be the same again, that our healthcare workers' remuneration would be commensurate with the criticality of the roles they play in our lives, that all health centers across the county would be adequately staffed and constantly supplied with the requisite drugs. We sought partnerships that would provide health safety nets to our people in the form of universal health care in tandem with the government of the day Big Four agenda. We fantasized about empowering the youth, creating a fairly and equitably administered interest-free youth fund, constructing a state-of-the-art stadium and a youth center to attract and nurture talent. We set aside colossal amounts of money in the budget aimed at transforming the potato industry in the county. Our eyes were glistened with hope for what the much-hyped potato processing plant would do for the people of Nyandarua. The jobs it would create, the respite it would accord our farmers, the revenue it would rake in. We projected billions for own source revenue for ours, because for us it was a journey of hope. Honorable members, every long journey we have encountered our fair share of challenges. Nevertheless, we played our part as a house, and we must not allow the challenges overshadow our achievements as an assembly. We started on a strong footing in October 2017 when we held the groundbreaking ceremony of our state-of-the-art administration block, which was graced by Governor Francis Kimemia as the guest of honor. Today, the building is complete and stands proud and in all its glory as indelible mark of success of the Second Assembly. Though the plan was mooted in the First Assembly, its completion would have been impossible without the input of the honorable members of the Second Assembly. This country is peppered with white elephant projects occasioned by change of leadership and dampened spirit of perpetual succession. You chose to be different and did the right thing. You approved the budgetary allocations for the same, kept the County Assembly Service Board on its toes, and ensured that public funds were spent prudently. And for that, we thank the honorable members. Conversely, there is little to show for the 70% development vote left with the governor, whose project implementation is crippled by incessant planning and corruption. Ironically, the governor has desperately tried to claim ownership of the 30% development implemented under the stewardship of the honorable members of this house. And by this, I mean that the governor is all over, handing out blankets and sufurias and the gas cans and the related items, which are the preserve of the MCAs. Our governor has never explained where he takes 70% of the development vote. And I hope that this is a matter that will be taken over or up by the third assembly, because all the necessary petitions have been filed with the relevant agencies about those issues. Honorable members, at the commencement of our term, we launched the Nyandarua County Assembly's second strategic plan, a blueprint on which our development agenda for the years 2018 to 2022 was inscribed. I'm extremely pleased to report to you that 95% of the objectives of that plan has been accomplished. On registration, we have passed around 15 bills into law and adopted over 300 motions whose resolutions you have always and promptly forwarded to the executive for implementation. And these have furthered the apparent developments in the county, though minimally. On representation, we take pride in the concept of irreducible minimums that has worked so well for members of this house. In fact, the few developments we have made reference to are born of this concept. As a result, we have seen counties like Nakuru and Kisumu benchmark with us, and we are optimistic that we shall set a new record for the number of MCs who will be elected this year, because of purely that concept of that percent irreducible minimum, which is shepherded and stewarded by the MCAs, although unfortunately the governor is now deciding to be the MCA and dealing with that of percent, and there is no word at all, which is a shame, on where the 70% which is left with him is going to. From this concept, our MCAs have made ineffaceable marks and provision of water and bursaries to their constituents. Again, on this one, although the MCAs, they are getting very little in terms of bursaries, we can count thousands and thousands of beneficiaries for the bursary that is patronized by the MCAs. But for the last 5 years, the governor, through an introduction by this assembly, was given a governor's scholarship, which for the last year had 15 million. But I have not seen a single student in Nyandarua who has benefited from that governor's scholarship scheme. I hope that assembly will come refreshed and have the governor, wherever he will be, account for the about 50 million, which has gone to the governor's scholarship scheme, where there is no evidence that it has served the interest of the helpless and the vulnerable children of this country. Additionally, from this concept, MCAs have made, I'm going back there. Yes. Additional members of this honorable house have taken individual and deliberate efforts to present the needs and aspirations of their constituents. The private motion to introduce a school feeding program, moved by Honorable Erimu Jane of Character Ward, and the one proposing the introduction of free primary education, moved by Hon Simon Sambege Mukulia, the member for Givioro, and the current leader of the majority party, exemplify the love and resolve you members held to transform the lives of your constituents. constituencies. Honorable members, again, that is again resolutions in the backwaters because they were never implemented to achieve that particular aid. Honorable members, our achievements on the administrative front cannot be gainsaid. In our strategic plan 2018-2022, we envisioned the construction of a speaker's official residence as required by law. Today, the house is complete and was handed over to us by the contractor late last year. All that is left is landscaping, which we believe will be the next Assembly's first port of call as far as the Speaker's residence is concerned. Honorable members, we will appreciate, as per the SRC circular, is that we were required to build the Speaker's residence and the Governor's residence by June 2021 to avoid the escalated costs of housing the Speaker and Governor in private residences. And despite the wars that were in this assembly, engineered by the same executive, we have been able to deliver on that mandate. The executive, I'm not even sure they have voted the road on which to build the Governor's residence, despite being the authors of the wars that were at this assembly. We continued and completed the Speaker's residence, among other programs, including almost 100% implementation of the strategic plan. During our tenure, we managed to fully automate our chambers, rendering our plenary and committee operations largely paperless. As a consequence, we saved on printing costs and have been able to do more with our budgetary allocation. Though we were inadvertently derailed by the COVID-19 scourge, it begged a new normal of virtual and hybrid sittings, which we embraced with enthusiasm. The virtual platform has served our members more conveniently and efficiently, both at the plenary and committee levels. By leveraging on state-of-the-art technology, members were able to access House documents more promptly and conveniently in advance, thus enriching the quality of debates in the House and their contributions at the various committee levels. Lastly, we had our recent first on the 3rd June 2022 when we commissioned a new logo to define a new future and a brand book for the county assembly. Indeed, we became the first assembly to register our coat of arms with the College of Arms of Kenya. This was augmented by a number of policies that will provide a framework for assembly operations on various fronts and which form a firm foundation for development of our beloved institution. They include the community involvement policy and the communication, public and media relations policy. On members, on challenges, we were sucked into an unprecedented and protracted political turmoil that shook the very core of our foundation. The doors to our assembly were illegally closed for a record 6 months in times of peace. Such kind of atrocity has happened elsewhere only in times of war or strife. Regrettably, the same was orchestrated, propagated, and perpetrated by a corrupt executive to the end by trying to evade transparency, accountability, and oversight of the assembly in utter contempt of the fundamental objects of devolution and the letter and the spirit of our constitution. In a historical misnomer, some of us here, for unconscionable reasons, cheered on the executive as it defiled and dismembered our assembly, the citadel of our democracy, and the supposed refuge and custodian of our joint and several consciousness. I hope that from that dark and regrettable episode, each one of us here took their lessons, and I'm optimistic that in the unfortunate recurrence of a similar scenario, we shall be especially better equipped and willing to, 1, protect our oath of office, 2, acknowledge and respect the independence of the assembly, 3, respect the Constitution, the rule of law, and court orders. And 4, cultivate peace, tolerance, and understanding. On members, the dichotomy of our mandate requires that in addition to implementing our strategic plan, we oversee the implementation of the executive's plans. Indubitably, this House has put the executive to task to implement the CIDP as envisaged in 2018. Regrettably, our efforts have not borne much fruit, as evidenced in the many non-existent projects and the unutilized budgetary allocations, despite numerous motions, petitions, and statements processed in this House. Our resolutions continue to gather dust. Like Pontius Pilate, we could have washed our hands. Yet we persisted. We made deliberate yet perilous efforts to set ourselves apart as a fearless oversight entity. And I'm proud to report that the example that Nyandarua set for resilience introduced and communicated sobriety in other assemblies which had tried to take the same route through excitement and incitement by their equally corrupt governors to avoid accountability, transparency, and oversight. We made deliberate, we even sought the intervention of key agencies, including the EACC, among others. Sadly, but not surprisingly, this degenerated into a series of political arguments, as I have said, that most literally brought this creature and organ of the supreme law to its knees. However, by the grace of God and the uncompromising nature of the law, this House, like the proverbial phoenix, rose from the ashes with its integrity intact and its resolve even greater. Today, we are joined Sindai as members of one House. 5 years and 35 billion shillings later, we are back to where we started, hopeful. On education, in spite of the numerous statements sought by members of this honorable House on the status of our polytechnics, only 15 out of the 25 existing TVETs are functional. Additionally, enrollment at the TVETs continues to plummet or to fall at an unfortunately steady rate, with a polytechnic like PESI not having enrolled a single student this year. And this, members, is not an accident. It is the misappropriation of the capitation fees that is coming from the national government and which is not transferred to the polytechnics. It is misappropriated at the offices of this county government at Orkarau, and the managers at the polytechnics are left helpless. Some of these structures are so dilapidated that they have been condemned by the public health. The instructors are highly insufficient and utterly demotivated. Miragine VTC, for instance, has only 6 instructors on permanent and pensionable terms, vis-a-vis a student population of 738. In which kind of a twisted world do we have a tutor of 1 to the ratio of 123? This is only found in Nyandarua, and for no good reason. The national government subsidized the youth polytechnic tuition capitation fees aimed at subsidizing the TCs. Fees is misappropriated, as I've said, costing our children the only chance to better their lives. 5 years later, our dream to build a university for Nyandarua continues to wither like a raisin in the sun. But, and members, if you remember, this was to start. This university was to commence on the 1st of May 2018. That is when we were to do the first intake. There was a lot of cara and pomp at the Nyandarua Institute, now Nyandarua National Polytechnic, and a lot of funds were spent to to just announce that our university will do the first intake on the 1st of May 2018. This assembly allocated that million to be able to comply with the requirement of a campus. That money to date has never been accounted for. No classes were built, no library was built, no dispensary was built, and no university was ever started, and there was never an intake on the 1st of May 2018, and there has never been an intake today. Bursaries are perpetually delayed to the detriment of our children's education and future, while our handful reap the benefit from the accruing interests. Certainly, the Third Assembly should, as a matter of priority and urgency, investigate the multi-million governors' scholarship bursary scheme, which has been plundered and has not been of any benefit to the hapless children of our beloved county. This is in spite of the innumerable statements sought on the status of the Nyandarua County bursary and scholarship disbursement. It has taken 5 years, numerous petitions and statements on the status of employment of ECD teachers for 381 ECD teachers to be confirmed in a haphazard and ill-thought manner without a budgetary allocation to cater for their salaries. I'm happy to appreciate that it has been reported that they have been paid. But most importantly, and what the Third Assembly should inquire about, is where these salaries came from when they have not been, it has not been in the budget, so that there is order in this country. This is plainly, if you pay money which is not in the budget, this is plainly a criminal offense. Under the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, you cannot procure without a budgetary allocation. And therefore, this payment we appreciate because our people have worked. But this is merely gerrymandering, and it is only meant for the 9th August 2022 general elections. It is not done out of goodwill and out of commitment and patriotism to serve the people of this country. The 66 long-serving ECD teachers left out during the recent recruitment must be put into permanent and pensionable terms. We are happy it has happened. From the report that has been led by the chair of the Public Administration and ICT Committee, they deserve nothing less. And you, honorable members, have resolved so severally. These particular resolutions must be implemented by the next government. Additionally, 88 out of the 96 sons and daughters of Nyandarua who have diligently served this county for decades as cash workers are still hopeful that they will one day be recognized and confirmed on permanent basis. And this honorable house has on countless occasions decreed as much. Unfortunately, some of them have already died, hoping, while the remaining 6, that is 6, because there were 96, 88 were absorbed, 8 remained, 2 died, 6 dream. The dreams of those 6 dried up like a raisin in the sun. They gave up waiting, a journey of hope indeed. They say to whom much is given, much is expected, and the health sector has by far been our greatest disappointment. Over the last 5 years, we have approved massive budgets in an attempt to revive and rejuvenate the health sector of this county. This is in addition to the numerous grants and support from the national government and other development partners to supplement the equitable share and own source revenue collected locally, including the NIDA and the Transforming Health Systems Universal Care Project, that is THUCP. Unfortunately, there is nothing much to write home about. The health care workers in this county is highly inadequate and ill-equipped to deal with the influx of patients, especially at JM Memorial Hospital, the only county referral hospital. Honorable members, your copious statement seeking to establish the status of employment of staff in the health sector, confirmation of health care cash workers, and remuneration of community health volunteers have borne little fruits, as we are furnished with make-believe utopian reports of the status, while in fact we are not oblivious to the actual and dismal reality that obtains in the ground. Indeed, as we enjoin Sinai, there is nothing novel about it. The salaries of our cash workers in the health sector was so when we are adjoining members Sinai here, the salaries of our cash workers were adjoined Sinai since last year, October. This is the 10th month, despite budgetary allocations, that our cash workers in the health sector have not been paid their literal salaries. These honorable members and the people of this county are people who are earning barely 9,000 shillings, but have not been paid for 10 months. And it can never be as oppressive than that. And this is a government whose head wants to be re-elected to continue oppressing the people of this county. By God's grace, the new administration will give settlement of these areas emergency treatment. The glaring deficiency in our health sector in terms of ill preparedness were eliminated in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, when even the welfare of the very fundamental health care workers was thrust in jeopardy, prompting members of the public to petition this House. Among the issues unearthed in the interrogation of the petition included lack of life and risk insurance covers for the health workers, numerous unsettled dues to the community health frontiers, inadequate protective kits for the health workers, lack of remuneration framework for the health workers, non-payment of their risk allowances, and other allied oppressive applications that were applied to these health workers. Additionally, the remittance of allowances to frontline health workers was and is still being marred by undue delays occasioned by excessive red tape, corruption, and discrimination. These findings were corroborated by the Union of Nurses and that of the clinical officers, which established that certainly health workers' allowances were paid selectively. Sundry, it is the officers in the isolation area, disease surveillance, distribution of commodities, screening of passengers, of patients, sensitization and emergency response, whose allowances were delayed. 1 year after the first COVID-19 case was reported in Kenya, and a whopping 400 million for the exercise, the IC unit at JM Hospital was yet to be operationalized. That was, I'm talking about 1 year after those allocations. COVID beds and ventilators, though allegedly purchased, had not been assembled by that time. Remember, we had sent the health committee and the implementation committee for that purpose. Reluctantly, our people had to travel to other counties to seek medical services, and unfortunately, the situation has not improved. Today in Nyadaro, we don't have a single surgeon across our hospitals. This is a county where mothers take themselves to the maternities and leave the hospital in coffins, with coffins, or rather inside coffins, with their newborn babies who are also born still. You still have to travel to Nakuru or Nairobi for any form of specialized treatment. Like back in 2017, we are still hoping that JM Memorial Hospital will be upgraded into the referral hospital that it should be. We look at what other counties have managed to do with an equal or lesser budget allocation, and we can't help but feel sorry for ourselves. However, all is not lost. And like Pontius Pilate, we shall not wash our hands on our account. We shall continue to speak and fight for the rights of our people, because we are Nyandarwans, and Nyandarua is our business. Honorable members, as I conclude, I wish the best in your future endeavors. I urge those of us seeking a fresh mandate to continue representing their constituents without fear or favor, and like a dream deferred, I pray that the Lord shall renew our strength and that He will give us courage, as always, to stand for what is right. By this I say that God blesses Nyandarua and God blesses Kenya. And I wish to appreciate also the honorable members. They know themselves, who played their role according to the dictates of the Holy Bible, doing the right thing at all times, even when nobody is seeing you. Those who followed the constitution of this country those who followed the rule of law, those who respected court orders, and those who did justice to the people of this county. And I hope that this will continue in the third assembly. For our staff, despite the challenges, you have remained, except the few who know themselves, you have remained steadfast, you have been governed by the rule of law, and you have always endeavored to do what is right. There have been a lot of reported ethical and integrity demonstration from all of you, and we wish you all the best as you come and serve or continue serving under a new administration. Honorable members, it is very sad and that the leader of majority has left, because I would want to understand what kind of a government that is leading this country. The leader of majority was in ICU for about 60 days. The bill exceeded what the insurance of this assembly can pay. We organized a fundraiser. The governor sent his CC for finance all the way to Nairobi. When our majority leader could not be released from hospital because of the hospital bill, pledged 750,000 for the cameras, and up to this day, that pledge has not been honored. And now you ask yourself, this governor, can he ever honor any pledge for the people of this county? If we cannot honor a pledge to his majority leader, who was brought back to us by the very hand of God, almost all of us had lost hope in him. And you go for the cameras, you pledge to pay a hospital bill, you don't pay, and today you want to go around in Nyandarua telling people to elect you to transform this county. The people of Nyandarua, I'm appealing from here, because if we don't have any reason to come back here again, it is the last time that I'll be formally sitting here. The people of Nyandarua, I have served with the Governor Francis Kimemia for 5 years. There is nothing worse that can ever happen to this county like what that particular person has done to this county. Killing and destroying institutions and people for his own benefit and survival. And if, by God's will, and the will of the people of Nyandarua, I become the third governor, we shall have to create a department of reconstruction, because everything in this county has been destroyed. We have to reconstruct this county. And therefore, as he moves around, peddling the usual lies, the people of Nyandarua should see through that. And said that man, through the same route, he appeared, unfortunately, to the face of this county. It is the worst thing that can ever. I've been now over 50 years. I've not seen what I've seen in those 5 years on the face of this county. It's unfortunate. It is evil. It's unfair. It is unjustified. It has no reason that it has happened. Therefore, if we don't converge again, I will be here to hand over to the new speaker on the date, whether I will be the governor, and I believe I will be to hand over to a speaker and then move to the other offices. Because under the amendment to Section 11 of the County Government Act, it says that, that is Section 11, 1A of the County Government Act, it says that the office of Speaker shall become vacant when a new county assembly first meets after an election. And therefore, for the staff and the members, I will be around until when a new assembly is convened and I hand over to the new speaker. So as you transact the business of the new speaker, of election of the new speaker here, I will be waiting in my chambers to hand over to the new speaker and hope that this county will have a new government devoid of the darkness that has engrossed this county for the last 5 years. So God bless all of us. God have mercy on all of us. Let us do peaceful campaigns. Let us listen to each other, because Nyandarua is bigger than all of us, and we have an ordained mission to serve our people and transform their lives. Asanteni sana. Okay, yeah, that is important to, because we don't require to put a question. So the assembly now adjourns, signed die, and the second assembly shall end on the 8th day of August 2022 at midnight. So all of us, especially the MCAs, will remain MCAs until the midnight of 8th of August 2022, when their seats will fall vacant for the elections on the 9th of August 2022. The assembly may be reconvened on very exceptional and extraordinary circumstances that requires urgent transaction of important business. However, do not foresee such circumstances that may warrant another sitting, but what I would say is that we are not granted those privileges to see what happens tomorrow, and therefore we are open to anything happening, and if we need to convene for any business, we shall accordingly issue a Kenya Gazette to that effect with the business to be transacted. The third assembly shall be convened by the newly elected governor at a time, date, and place as he shall appoint via a Gazette notice. Next order, although there cannot be another order when I have declared that we have adjourned the Sunday, so all of the best to all of us.
Mr. Speaker.